Welcome to the JD MBA Program Program info session today. And before we officially start today's session, I would like to acknowledge that UBC Vancouver Point Grey Campus is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. We would also like to acknowledge that you are joining us today from many places, near and far, and we acknowledge the traditional landowners and caretakers of those lands. So my name is Patricia, and I'm the manager for Recruitment and Admissions at UBC Sauder. And today we do have a special guest who's Vivian Tran. So Vivian is the Director of Admissions and Recruitment from the Allard School of Law at UBC. And today both of us will be kind of moderating the session together to give you all the information about the dual degree at UBC. And we will also have a panel discussion at the later or the second part of today's session to give you more insights on how our student and alumni had experienced this dual degree program at UBC. And just a little overview on what's going to happen during today's session. It's very simple. So in the first part, we will go over the JD MBA program. So both me and Vivian will talk kind of separately on the MBA part and the JD part of the program. And later we will have a panel discussion from our panelists to talk about their experience, their admissions process, and everything they want to share with you. And at the end, we'll do a quick Q&A to address any of your questions. So as I mentioned before, if you're live on the session, if you do have any questions at any time during the session, feel free to either type it in the chat box, put your hand up or anything just to let us know. All right. Okay, so we will officially kick off today's session, and I would like to start it by playing just a quick video of how does the kind of UBC Sauder experience feel like for our students.
This is an invitation to change your outlook, break out of old patterns, outperform your own expectations of what business could be. Because when you care about the outcome on a personal, professional, and global scale, you'll find the #1 business program in Canada is calling to you. UBC Sauder School of Business. Think outside.
All right, we'll dive right in terms of what are you going to learn in the dual degree program. So you could see a map of the program journey of what are you going to study basically from the beginning until the end of the program. It is a 4-year program. So it is, a program that will equip students with the tools to understand law from the perspective of a business person. And also our students will understand business from the perspective of a lawyer, so vice versa. And by gaining expertise in all angles of law and business and management, our students will be ready to succeed in global economics and also the ability to navigate the complexities of law and business is the key. So, and also as a benefit of being in the dual degree program before and after graduation, the students will benefit from the full support from the Career Services Office, both from the law school and the business school. And it means that you will get twice of the professional development opportunities and networks, and also usually when our graduates pursue the rewarding careers in fields such as corporate law, investment banking, consulting, and venture capital as well. So in the next few minutes, I'm on the MBA or the business part of this dual degree of what our students are going to benefit from the MBA part, the MBA degree. So in terms of what's going to be included in the program, as you see on this journey map of your program, basically in the first year, you're going to go through all the courses, the curriculum from the JD programming for your year 1 courses. At the end of that year, you're going to start your MBA journey by participating in the MBA opening week. So you'll be merging into our kind of MBA cohort, the full-time MBA cohort, and you're going to start the journey right from there. The first semester you're going to do in your year two is going to be, your foundation courses. For anybody who have not studied business before, this means that, all the foundational courses such as accounting, marketing, operations, and all of that, you will go through all of them to make sure you understand how does an organization work, how do you manage teams, how do you build high performance teams, and all of that. And going into your second semester, this is where things start to get interesting because you will get to decide which areas of a business are you more interested in to study. So if we look at this slide here, it has mentioned the different career tracks that you will get to choose when you're in the MBA program. And you can see that we do offer climate, finance, innovation and entrepreneurship, technology and analytics, product and service management, or for anybody who's not sure if they want to just focus on one area of the business, if they want to tackle two, or sometimes they just want to be more prepared for any of the possible opportunities in the future. You could potentially choose two or even more than two to focus on. So for anybody, for example, if you currently work in finance, or maybe you work in tech industry at the moment, but in the future, anybody who wants to explore new opportunities by creating their own firm, or maybe they want to start, working in a new role that has something to do with product and service management, they could technically choose both streams, and they could choose courses, let's say 2 courses in finance, 2 courses in innovation, and 2 courses in product and service management, so that they form their own track, which is called the custom track, so that you will get to build the experience for your MBA based on your own interest. In that same semester, I'm going to kind of rewind here to this slide. In that same semester, our students will get to participate in a very interesting part of the program, which we call it the Global Immersion Experience. So for 2 weeks, everybody will go abroad. They will choose a destination outside of Canada to work with an overseas client on their consulting project. And this is where you really get to expand your network globally and also learn how to work with different clients. And here's another short video just to show you what our students did in the global immersion experiences. There we go. So you can see that it's not just about, connecting with your client. It's not just about being in the classroom. It also has the business visits and social activities. So it's a very exciting time of the program, and everybody's very psyched to go every year. The next semester of the MBA part is going to be your summer experience semester, which means that for about 4 months, you're going to either find an internship to work full-time to really exercise on what you've learned so far in the program. Or for some people, if they want to do their entrepreneurship project to create their own business, or they want to do an industry research project, they could do that too. But here, as you can see the data, for anybody who did an internship, almost half of them will be hired again by the same employer from their internship. This means that as long as you keep that relationship going with the internship employer, the chance of being hired right after graduation is very high. And we definitely recommend our students to, try your best to work well when you're in your internship semester so that you can secure your position very early on. And in your last semester of the MBA portion, our students will have the opportunity to participate in more partnership in terms of exchanges. So one of the really interesting, or one of the highlights of the exchange program, is our global network for advanced management. I want to bring this up because this is very special for our students, and it's also very special for UBC, as this global network has 33 schools all over the world, and many of them are very prestigious business schools, such as Yale, Oxford, UC Berkeley, and UBC is the only Canadian school that's part of this network, which means that our students will have the chance to take a course with, MBA students from all those business schools included in the same network without having to pay any extra tuition. But you do get the chance to be merged into this network, expand your connections, and get credits from them. So it's a very exciting opportunity, and many people want to be a part of it in their last semester. And by being in this dual degree program, you will get that chance as well. As I mentioned before, when you're in this dual degree program, you get twice or dual the career support from both schools. So for the Sauder Business School part, for your career support, first of all, you will get one-on-one career coaching from a coach from our Business Career Center. This means that you will get customized or personalized coaching in terms of, telling them what's your goal, how do they help you to look at your resume, to look at your interview skills, and potentially if you get a position, how do you negotiate your contract and all of that. And once you are, let's say in your internship semester, once you secure your internship, the coaching will continue to make sure that you will be securing your full-time position after you graduate. So there's a lot of opportunities that you will get to connect with industry companies, and also will host recruitment events and making sure that our students are getting the resources that they need to secure their full-time position after graduation. But of course, in this dual degree program, you have to continue on with your law school courses, which means that once you are finishing with your business courses, you will transition kind of slowly to the law school career support to make sure that you are getting the support from Allard as well. And next, very quickly, I just want to touch base on the admission side of things. We do offer scholarships for our JD MBA students as well. And these are some examples for the scholarships that you might be eligible for. And for the full list, please visit our website. You will see a full list of what are available for that current intake year. And all our scholarships are merit-based. Basically, it means that it depends on how competitive you are in your application. This includes your grades, your GMAT, your GRE score, your work experience, if applicable, your references, your essay answers, and also your interview performance. So basically what you need to do is making sure that your application is strong, it stands out in the competition. And of course, for admissions requirements, if you're applying to the JD MBA dual degree compared to the kind of standalone full-time MBA, the difference here is that the work experience is not required, but if you do have some work experience, that's fantastic. It will be considered competitive, but it's not mandatory. The rest of the admissions requirements are the same, but of course, at the same time, you will have to meet the law school admission requirements, which Vivian will touch base on in just a minute. For anybody who does not have the GMAT or GRE score, you could potentially request for a waiver. And you will see that I've listed these waiver requirements, which means that you do have to meet any one of them to be eligible for a waiver. And you will also see the full list on our website. So make sure that before you submit your application, read through what's required if you're requesting for a waiver. Last but not least, which is the deadlines for applications. So right now we are accepting applications for the 2026 intake. And I've listed both the JD application deadline and also the MBA deadline. So we do offer rolling admissions at the UBC Sauder School. So it doesn't mean that you have to exactly follow the deadline date. So the next coming up deadline is January 9th, but let's say if you're ready by December 1st, if you're ready by December 15th, feel free to submit your applications to us because we will start reviewing your application once it becomes complete. And of course, as I mentioned, December 1st is the JD MBA, is the JD application deadline, which means that you do have to meet that one first to make sure that you are applying to the JD school so that you can get admission from both. All right. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Vivian so that she can touch on the JD part of the program. Over to you, Vivian.
Thanks, Patricia, for that introduction. You see here, for those of you who are not familiar, one of my favorite photos of the law school. Always like to look at this photo to remember how lucky we are to study, not just at such a top institution, but in such a beautiful place. So we're in a state-of-the-art building, nestled in the embrace of nature. You're just about a 10-minute walk away from one of the beaches on campus. So a really amazing place to work and study. Before I get into talking about Allard Law, Patricia has talked a little bit about the MBA program, and I'm going to tell you a bit about the JD program, but I also want to touch base on what the value proposition is of doing this program as a dual degree. From what you've learned from Patricia, there's a few unique elements of this program. One being that you can do the MBA and the JD at the same time, which means you don't need to meet the 2-year work experience requirement that's typically required for most top MBAs. So this is a really unique opportunity for those of you that want to pursue the degree in both of these degrees in a dual format to actually do it all in one go, which basically sets you up for success in the future. Let's say you do become a lawyer, and you don't have the MBA, it's going to be that much more expensive in 5-10 years time when you're making $200,000-$300,000 to walk away from your career to do an MBA later on. So this really does set you up for success right at the beginning. And I'm sure our 2 alumni panelists would be able to talk a little bit more about why that decision, what motivated that decision for them as well. But for those of you that studied economics, I'm sure you've heard about opportunity costs. Just remember your opportunity costs, let's say as a lawyer, just gets greater and greater the further down you get in your career. So I just want to bring those things up just to talk about this degree in context. Another thing to note is that you can apply for this degree at the same time as you apply for your JD degree, but you can also apply during your first year of your JD degree. So if you are already an Allard student and you're in your first year, you can apply for the MBA portion of the degree, and we can talk a little bit more about that if that's the situation for you as well. So why Allard Law? We have tremendous faculty at Allard Law. I'm always surprised at who I meet in the hallways at Allard, just because they were basically heroes of mine when I was studying. So I'm not going to name them all or put them on the spot, but let's just say we have really impressive faculty who are leaders in their fields. And if you want me to ever provide you names, I can always point you in the right direction. But I'm always surprised at who we have in the hallways. They're really amazing faculty who are leaders in their fields. We have a really broad and diverse curriculum, over 80 upper year electives to choose from in really interesting courses like law and robotics and society, cyberspace law. And we're constantly changing that curriculum based on emerging elements that are pertinent to the legal field. When you join Allard, it is a really welcoming community. We have groups that, students might identify with, such as the Law Student Society, the Indigenous Law Students Association, the Black Students Association, Outlaws, the Women's Caucus. But we also have groups that are just for fun, like the Mallard Law Birdwatching Club or the Legal Eagle Hockey Team. And then, of course, we also have that clubs that are related to people's subject matter interests, like the Intellectual Property Law Club and the Allard Law and Business Society Club, for example. We do try to encourage, even though it's 200 students that join us in September every year, we do try to encourage this kind of familiarity with each other and in the form of small groups and small classes. There's always this element of students helping students, which I'm sure our alumni can talk about when we get to the alumni panel. But we also have these structured approaches like upper year mentors and upper year peer tutors to make sure that new students coming into law school are well equipped and are starting to build that network, not just with their first year peers, but with their upper year peers as well. So they get a really good environment that way across the different years at law school. There's a lot of focus on support for student well-being and development. You'll see that we have like mentoring, advising. We also have a dedicated well-being advisor who's a clinical counselor that's an embedded staff member. And those services are available to our students free of charge, as well as student funding and grants that run both all the way through first, second, and third year of your law program. We have a couple of specializations. You can see them here. I just won't get into too many details because I want to make sure I'm saving enough time for the our alumni panelists, but these are the four here. And then also opportunities for international exchange. So we have exchange partnerships in multiple continents around the world. So likely wherever you are interested in going on exchange, which would happen in your upper year, second and third year, there's likely a partnership that we have that will interest you. In addition to our international exchange program, we also run a number of dual degree programs. So obviously the JD MBA program is one of them, but we also run a JD LLM degree partnership with the University of Melbourne and a JD LLB joint legal education program with the University of Hong Kong in Asia. Experiential learning makes up a big part of the program, or it can make a very large part should you wish to do so. I believe up to 19 credits, which is nearly a full year of credits, could be done through experiential learning. So there's a variety of like clinics and externships that our students can get involved with, such as like law students' legal advice program is very popular. The Rise Women's Legal Center, the Indigenous Community Legal Clinics. These are all such examples of ways that students can give back when they're studying to oftentimes communities that are underserved by legal services. So it's a really good way for you to get experience and also get credit towards your degree, but also help in the community and give back to the community in a very meaningful way. We also have experiential learning in the form of moots. So this is actually not a comprehensive list. There's more than this available, but for the purposes of space, this gives you some examples of some of the moots that our students can get involved with. So these are kind of like mock court. So you kind of understand what it's like to be in court. And then we also have experiential learning in terms of skills developments that are very pertinent to people going into the legal field, such as trial advocacy, for example, negotiation and dispute resolution, intercultural dispute resolution. So all these types of skills that you can learn in terms of the act of being a lawyer are also things that we have courses on as well. Our career service office is basically a full service career center. All the staff there are also have JDs themselves and have often been working in the legal field for some number of years and in a variety of different disciplines. So they are an excellent resource to kind of connect our students with what their career options might be and building the necessary skills to meet their career goals. They host a ton of recruitment events, such as on-campus interviews, in the structured recruitment process. We have firms coming in from Vancouver, but also from Toronto. There's more than you can handle. So don't worry about the breadth of it. There's going to be more than you're going to be able to attend humanly possible. So they also have an internal career system and job postings, as well as a dedicated public interest coordinator for those of you that are interested in working in public interest. They have an excellent placement rate. So typically 97 to 99% placement rate for students graduating from the program. So excellent statistics there. We have over 12,000 alumni in 46 countries around the world. You'll see that the majority of our students do end up practicing in British Columbia, but that's usually because they are attracted to us in the first place. So they studied at UBC to practice in British Columbia. But if you want to practice elsewhere, our Career Center is more than happy to facilitate placements outside of the province as well. So quickly on the application deadline, we are in the middle now of recruiting for our September 2026 entry. The deadline is coming up December 1st, so that means all official documents need to be in, but we will accept the January 2026, the January writing of the LSAT for the September 2026 admissions. And then we have rolling admissions as well. So that means that offers will go out in waves as we approach the spring. And by May, most of the offers will come out and wait lists will be established where we will continue to admit from the wait list until classes start in September. We have three broad categories: general, discretionary, Indigenous. The general category is where most of our students, like 90% of our students, will apply under. And this category is looking at a balance between your GPA, LSAT, and personal statement. So I think one of the major questions I get from this general category is like, is it only GPA and LSAT? And obviously the answer is no, right? Like, yes, it puts it is a big part of the application process, which is the academics. But think about it, it's the balance between the three. About like 1/3 of it is still based on your personal statement, which can kind of influence things about, let's say, when you get an offer or like if you get an offer. So do pay attention to that personal statement. You know, what you say about yourself does matter. Discretionary category is for people that might have faced some type of hardship or special need, be it medical or socioeconomic, where it might have impacted their grades and might necessitate a more holistic approach to their application assessment. So same requirements here. We need your transcripts, we need your LSAT, but your personal statement is going to be a bit longer. The general category has 3 smaller essays that you answer, but the personal statement for discretionary is going to be a bit longer for you to kind of go into like what had happened, how it impacted you, how you got over it, and hopefully a little bit about like how you like put measures in place to make sure that you are successful once you enter law school. This category, we do ask for 2 reference letters, ideally 1 academic and 1 professional. But if you are just out of school and you don't have professional references yet, you can use 2 academic. Or if you're a professional that's been working for decades, then you're free to use 2 professional references as well. We also have an Indigenous category for Indigenous peoples of Canada. For this category, we have similar documentation requirements as discretionary, transcripts, LSAT score. We also ask for proof of ancestry. So this could be, an Indian status card, a Métis identification card, or some kind of documentation from federal, provincial, territorial, or Indigenous government that supports your self-identification. We would ask students to kind of talk a little bit about their involvement with their Indigenous community and organizations and how they intend to use their legal training to advance Indigenous concerns and interests. So for any of you that are eligible for the Indigenous category, we do have an Associate Director of Indigenous Legal Studies. He's an Allard grad himself. His name is Russell, and you can reach him here at ILS at Allard at .ubc.ca, and he'd be more than delighted to talk to you. The Black student application process is not a category in of itself, but rather a parallel process. So students that are who are Black students can apply under this expedited process under one of our 3 categories: general, discretionary, Indigenous. Now they don't have to apply, like add anything additional to their application aside from what's required of that specific category. But we do ask applicants who apply under the BSAP process to reflect on their relationship with Black excellence and be thoughtful about what Black excellence means to you in your personal statements. Participation is voluntary, so you do not have to participate if you do not wish to do so. All it does is it tries to ensure an expedited review of your application by a majority Black subcommittee, so to have similar lived experiences as applicants that qualify for BSAP. And the purpose is to offer timely decisions for a historically underrepresented group of students and individuals in the legal profession. Costs and funding, I'm just going to quickly look at the time here. So I'm not going to get too much into this, but suffice it to say, if you've done research into how much JD programs cost, I know this number looks big, but it's actually one of the smallest numbers for a JD program in Canada. So definitely do your research. But nonetheless, we do still offer about $1 million in funding and bursaries across the 3 years of our program, students in our program. So, and our programs are still eligible for student loans. This is our team in the JD admissions. I'm not going to go into too many details, but you'll get one of us at whether you call in or you email. And then definitely connect with our student ambassadors if you wish to learn more about what the student experience is. And I'll just leave with these 2 QR codes here in case you want to screenshot them about how to connect with one of our Allard ambassadors and also upcoming JD admissions events, whether they're in person or virtual. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. Patricia, you can maybe start off our panel discussion with the introductions.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Vivian.
Yeah.
So we are going to move on to our next part of the session, which is going to be a panel discussion. So we've invited, so you can see on the screen, Gray and Great here. So both of them, so Gray is currently, he has not graduated, and Grace was graduated, I think, in 2024. I'm going to do a short introduction of themselves, but later Vivian's going to moderate the panel with kind of asking them some questions. So if you do have direct questions for them, feel free to throw it into the chat box, and we're happy to address that as well. So Gray is a JD MBA candidate at UBC, and before pursuing his joint degree, Gray performed professionally as a musical theater performer across North America. In his L1 summer, Gray worked at the Dentons Canada LLP in the Vancouver office as the recipient of the Douglas Knowles Casey annual internship in insolvency, where he co-authored an article published in the 20th Annual Review of Insolvency Law, Canada's leading insolvency law journal. In his second summer, Gray worked at the Juris LLP in Toronto with the focus on corporate solicitor practices. Gray will return to Juris LLP after graduating to continue developing his corporate practice. Grace is currently an associate in the Corporate and Securities Group at Beckman Elliott LLP, one of Canada's premier business law firms. Grace completed her JD MBA in May 2024, and prior to law school, she pursued Bachelor of Commerce at UBC Sauder Business and was a varsity athlete on the UBC rowing team throughout her undergraduate degree. All right, so let's welcome Grace and Gray, and thank you so much for joining our panel today. I'll hand it over to Vivian.
Great. Thanks, Patricia. And thank you so much, Gray and Grace. I know we have like very similar sounding names here in the panel between the panelists, but hopefully we won't get that mixed up. I guess what I would like to start off with is what led you to decide to pursue two professional graduate programs?
Grace, I can start if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I was thinking the exact same thing. This is going to be a tricky with the two names. Yeah, I'm actually currently sitting in Toronto at the Tories LLP office. So it's 3 p.m. here, and I see bright sunny windows, and I look out, and it's already dreary, which is unfortunate. But to answer the question, for me, I applied as Vivian mentioned. There's two, or sorry, Patricia mentioned. There's two options to apply for the dual program. You can apply right on the outset, or you could apply in your first year of law school. And I actually applied during my first year of law school because I wasn't sure I really wanted to do the MBA. I started with the JD program. For me, my decision to pursue the joint degree was really all about just opening more doors up professionally and opportunities for me down the line, because I wasn't really sure what I really wanted to do. Coming from a background in theater, I was already making a big kind of pivot in my professional career by going to law school, and I still wasn't 100% sure I wanted to pursue strictly law. And so for me, the joint program was the perfect way to kind of open up as many opportunities as possible. I really do think the combination of those two degrees opens up a lot of doors. And now that I am in a legal position now at a law firm, I'm still super happy that I pursued the MBA in addition to that, because I think down the line, I'm content where I am right now, but down the line, I think the MBA still provides a lot of opportunities to lateral to different places, to work in-house at different companies, or to change industries completely. So for me, it was all about not really knowing what I wanted to do and trying to provide myself with enough opportunities to really discover, I guess, where I wanted to land. So that was my kind of rationale.
Thanks, Gray.
Hi, everyone. I am similarly to Gray, also applied during my 1L year. So I started law school in 2020. I kind of knew about the MBA program, but wasn't totally sure. It can be overwhelming initially just to even be going into 1L. So I was like, I'll start there. I did do my undergrad at Sauder, so I had some business exposure prior to going to law school, and I was pretty sure that I wanted to land in sort of a corporate law role. So when I was considering in 1L doing the dual program, it really came down to it being, a very unique opportunity, as both Patricia and Vivian have mentioned in their slides, like both programs are very complementary, but also offer very different experiences and opportunities. And I just saw that as a great chance to, open more doors, learn new things, expand my network, really get a broader perspective. I'm confident I wanted to be a lawyer, so that was sort of my primary path, but understanding that I could really get a lot more even out of that experience by adding in the MBA. And I'm now a little bit, not super far out, but a year and a bit out from school. And I can say I think I use the MBA every day. It's not necessarily super obvious things where I'm oh my gosh, there's no way I could have done this if I didn't do the MBA. But it's really just the small things of being able to look at a legal issue, which 99% of my clients at least are business people and businesses, and sort of understanding their position, their issues. It really is helpful to have that MBA and business knowledge. And also just a lot more, confidence talking to clients, confidence at networking events. You're sort of in this business world as a corporate lawyer in Vancouver, and I find having that knowledge is extremely helpful for me. So could go on for a while, but I'll leave it at there, and people can ask more questions.
That's great, Grace. Actually, you know what? There's a question I do want to ask about that because you just touched on it now. But what are some of the learning outcomes that you gained from the JD MBA, like the dual JD MBA program, that you would not have gained, knowing what you know now, had you just done one or the other degree?
I can jump back in again, and then I'll
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, I did sort of touch on it. I guess I'll give the perspective of maybe if I had done just law or just instead of the MBA. I don't know that I would have just done the MBA. I was sort of planning to go the law route, but I think everything kind of in business law, as I mentioned, sort of has a very business component to it. It's not that law and legal issues kind of happen in a vacuum and they're over here and the business issues are over here. And I think in law school, Allard is exceptional at teaching the law and that aspect of it, but you kind of just get a whole other experience. And even just the people that you're with in the MBA program, they often have a lot of experience. So they're often, been in the workforce for even 5 years. And so being able to kind of engage and network with those people, I found was very, very helpful in hearing their experiences of being in a business field. I can give a very tangible example of my current practice of how I find the MBA helpful. I work on lots of M&A transactions, so mergers and acquisitions. And when we're, negotiating the purchase agreement, or we're identifying issues in diligence or discussing with the client, really what it comes down to at the end is it's not just, oh, this is a legal risk, FYI. It's how are we going to translate that legal risk into something that's going to help move the transaction forward. So does that mean we need to look at the value of the business differently? Do we need to, adjust the purchase price? And so when you start kind of taking it to that next level, having my kind of finance knowledge from the MBA of how businesses are valued is extremely helpful when I'm trying to, create a leak or take a legal issue and actually make it a tangible solution for the client.
Amazing. Thanks so much for sharing, Grace.
Yeah, and I have similar experiences to Grace as well. I think in my work, I think I'm a year below Grace, so I'm even less junior than she is. But in kind of my task that I'm doing at Tories, oftentimes the student tasks that you receive in an articling position, they're a bit isolated and discrete, and you're never really getting the full business context of the deal, which makes it hard for anyone. But I think it makes it harder for those that don't have that MBA background, because I do believe that MBA background just provides context to the deal and contextualizes the deal. And for me, I'm just a little bit more familiar with all the moving parts, as Grace mentioned, versus someone who isn't kind of aware of the kind of motivations behind pursuing these legal actions, the motivations behind a business approaching a law firm to help with an issue. It just kind of isolates this legal issue, and it's a little bit kind of harder to approach and to fully understand. So I completely agree with that. I also had the opportunity, which I'm sure is a question we'll talk about after, but I had the opportunity to do the corporate counsel externship, and which is where students are placed in an in-house position for a term. And I was actually placed at UBC, so I was working with the council of that work at UBC, which was super interesting. But in an in-house position, I think it's even more. I think that the two are even more intertwined because you're literally working for a business, and the legal team is serving that business and the business objective of that business. So you have to fully understand again the business motivations, why we're doing what we're doing, how the legal team is supporting that business goal. And so the two are very much intertwined. And I found in that experience, it was super helpful to have the MBA background and context. And as someone who's particularly potentially interested in transitioning down the line to in-house, I think that context again will prove invaluable. So it's helped me a lot as well.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And maybe touching on this, what was your experience like with the career services, both at UBC Sauder as well as with the Allard School? Because you get actually access to both those departments when you're in the dual degree program. So curious to hear what your experiences were like.
Yeah, I leveraged both highly. I on the Allard side, I think well I know I submitted all my cover letters and resumes for review, which was super helpful, and they really took the time to sit down with you and kind of go through the cover letter and explain kind of their changes. I had a kind of a unique experience with my 1L position at Denton's where I accepted the offer, but then something kind of came up, and then I had to kind of go back to Denton's and kind of pitch this alternative summer position. But I remember I approached the career services office at Allard, and they were so helpful, and they were completely on my side and helped me through it. And it was quite an emotional experience for me, honestly. But they were really supportive, and I remember that moment because they really had my back, and they had my best interests in mind, and they really put me forward, which I appreciated. On the Sauder side, is Mary Cowan still with Sauder?
Yes.
Yeah, so Mary Cowan has the finger on the pulse of every industry in the country, and I remember at a network, we had an alumni event where they were connecting alumni of the MBA with the current MBA students. And she literally, like the team, Mary and the team, the students would come up to her saying, "Oh, I have this interest, I have this interest," and she'd go, "Okay, see this person, see this person, see this person," and she would connect you to all the people who are working in that industry, which I was mind blown by. And I have a niche kind of interest. My interest is entertainment, and so I was like, "Hey, I'm interested in entertainment." She's like, "Yeah, talk to this person right here." I talked to that person. Talked about her career and how she ended up there. And I just think both career services offices are really good at connecting you to people and supporting you in times of need, which is what they should do. So I have very positive experiences with both.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm really glad to hear you had such amazing experiences with both these offices.
Mhm.
I can maybe just add a little bit. That was I think Gray covered it all, but I think in this program, another unique aspect is that you get access to both of those career offices because they are different. They're both exceptional in their own ways, but sort of offer different things. Where like the Allard one is much, is more geared towards legal recruiting, and there's a much more structured process associated with how like the law firms recruit. So they're like extremely helpful and have all the information you could possibly need to, be successful in that structured recruit process. And then on the Sauder side, because the MBA is kind of meant to be a broader program, lots of people end up jumping off and doing very different things. They offer some very, awesome opportunities, as Gray mentioned, networking events, like even like career coaching. I remember doing like skills assessments and thinking about like what types of work environments I would be successful in. So I think it was like a very complementary experience to be able to leverage both of those career offices. And certainly anyone that does the program, I'd highly recommend that you take advantage of those resources.
And I'll just add one thing because I did both my MBA internship and I'm now working in Toronto. I left Vancouver. They were just as helpful to my Vancouver friends who stayed in Vancouver as they were to me trying to get a job in Toronto. Like I knew from the start that I wanted to land a job in Toronto, and they were provided a lot of support, and they have all the information that any kind of Toronto school would have, and they connected with me with people in Toronto. They walked through the OCI process, the recruitment process, because it does differ from Vancouver to Toronto. So they really have support wherever you want to land, which is amazing.
That's really great that you touched on that, because I did promise the audience that I would talk about this Toronto issue, because of course the majority of the students that study at UBC tend to stay in Vancouver. So I'm curious if there's anything you would say as advice for like students that are considering Allard but also want to also keep the Toronto option open.
Yeah, so I did a lot of kind of research when I was looking into schools about where I would go to school, knowing even from the second I was applying to schools that I wanted to end up in Toronto, and that was always a concern of mine, going out west, and then potentially coming back to work in Toronto. But UBC is a top school, and I had no issue with returning to Toronto to find work. Um, on a personal level, I think it's again, well, I'm not sure who lives in Vancouver, but I think it's also a great thing to live in a new place and grow personally. But yeah, I didn't have any issue. And again, there was support from both career service offices to find that job. And I also think school jobs in Toronto are looking for diverse candidates, and I think diverse means a lot of different things, but one aspect of diversity is education. And so I know at my firm, I think they really value diversity of school. So I think they saw UBC as a top school, and they're, yeah, of course, like they're one of the top schools, and we'd be happy to have grades. So I don't know. Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. It is actually some of the feedback that I did hear from some of our Toronto alumni is like you're just bringing something, you're bringing that different perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like in a Toronto market that's dominated by Toronto grads, you're bringing that West Coast experience, you're bringing that West Coast network with you. That's
Yeah.
just value added as diversity in what is a Toronto dominated market.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Now I just want to take a brief pause here to remind the audience, like we are kind of approaching our Q&A time. So at any point now, if you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to pop them in the chat, or you can also use the raise hand feature if you want to ask a question live. So I'll just continue on with some of the questions that we had prepared before, but please, if you have a question, this is a wonderful time to ask them. I want to ask you where you did your MBA internships and what was your experience like?
Can start us off. I did my MBA internship at Herschel Supply Company, so the backpack company, people are familiar. They're headquartered in Vancouver, so they have an office down in Gastown, about 200 employees, so a pretty good sized business. And I actually kind of had a great little hybrid role. So I was working with their financial planning and analysis team part-time, and then also part-time with their in-house legal team, which sat in the very same area. So it was kind of a perfect mix where I saw those two interact. And it was an awesome experience to get to really see the inside of a business from the business perspective as well as the legal perspective, and kind of be involved in that finance decision making and seeing how those sort of flow out. Especially it was fun being at a brand like Herschel where you see it on the street and you're like, oh, that's exciting. I know about how we got those backpacks out there. So I ended up finding that position through like a networking event. Someone I knew worked at the company, and I sort of asked them for coffee and arranged it that way. So I think for the MBA internships, I don't know what the exact stats are, but certainly like a good chunk of people sort of will get it through the Career Center and like postings on the boards. And then other people will kind of use these networking events to find internships as well. So there's a lot of opportunities to be able to find different internships through different streams.
Right.
I'll just quickly say something before Andy's question. Yeah, I worked in Toronto at Mervish Productions, which was also something that I, through a networking event that I found and I had kind of previous contacts with. But the only thing I'll say is we kind of crafted that internship to meet this kind of requirements of the program, both with Mervish, myself, and with the career services team. So they were great. The MBA Sauder career services team was great in kind of crafting that internship so that I could have this really amazing experience in Toronto in an industry that I wanted, but also make sure that it fulfilled all the requirements of the program. So they're very, very, again, very helpful is what I'll say. Yeah.
So this is a little bit of a forward-thinking question, let's say. Imagine around 40 years from now, how likely are you to explore or revisit the campus to upgrade your knowledge after practicing in a vocation for 40 years? So this is a question for Grace and Gray. Like, do you think, how likely are you to upgrade, you think, knowing what you know now?
I think, I mean, I would say I'm, always open to more learning opportunities and growing. So I would never say I would never do it. I don't necessarily have any specific plan to do so, but I think you kind of hit on an interesting point that is a really big reason that I did this program, which was that it's much more of a long-term decision. It's like, sure, it's very helpful for me, like right now as like a first year in a law firm, it's helpful in that sense. But I think doing this program is a much more longer term vision and seeing how it can just open doors at basically every stage of your career. And the opportunity to be able to do it and basically only add one more year if you're doing law, it's only one extra year, and doing it now kind of saves you from having to potentially go back later. So I think that was a big reason, was that, I thought maybe I potentially would want to go back to school later. So why not, do it now and be able to have that benefit throughout my career. And also, life happens. So maybe down the line, it wouldn't have worked out in the same way. But maybe Gray has different 40-year plans.
I don't think I don't barely have a 1 year plan. So, but the one thing I'll add is I have a group chat with some Vancouver Allard alumni who all work in Vancouver, and every day we're like, we miss school, we want to go back to school. So I'm sure we've kind of joked about getting a master's of law, but it's not necessarily that. It's not so far-fetched, because school is great, and being in a learning environment is great, and I love learning. So I wouldn't count it out, but I'm not sure if maybe one day, but I'm not too sure.
All right. So maybe I'll end with one last question. Knowing everything you know now, if you could give one piece of key advice to anyone considering the JD MBA program, what would your advice be?
I would say, for the actual program, I would say like what you put into the program is what you're going to get out of it. It's kind of a unique dual program to do, where if you kind of just go into it and go through the motions, you won't necessarily get out everything that you can, or maybe even the reasons that you wanted to go into it. So I find it helpful if you're like really thinking about why you want to do it, and like what you're wanting to get out of that and how you think it might. It's hard to be like, this is going to benefit my career in X way. It's not necessarily easy to make that tangible assumption early, but kind of figuring out what sorts of things you might want to get out of it, because I really think like if you can dive in and take advantage of everything that those programs have to offer, and put your heart and soul into it for the 4 years, you're going to see so many benefits out of that. So and I think that kind of starts with really having like a strong purpose for doing the program. So giving that thought, I think it was very helpful for me, because I was multi-months of deciding whether to do it, and I think by the time I had decided to do it, I'd really like had a strong vision, and that helped me go through the program and I think take advantage as best I could.
That's really great advice. I'll try to come up with something as good as that. I think both programs are very difficult, and difficult for their own reasons, and I think it's inevitable that you will face challenges and you will struggle through these programs. But I think sitting in that struggle and embracing that struggle and just embracing it head on is the best thing you can do. And I think I've learned the most from those difficult times in both programs. On the MBA side, they're both totally different too, which is really cool. Like at Allard, it's very much independent work, 100% exams, versus the MBA, it's a lot of group work, 20% assignments here and there sprinkled throughout. And so the juxtaposition is a great way to learn about yourself too. But I remember times working in groups that were really, really difficult, but it sets you up for a real life experience, and you just have to kind of go through them with a positive attitude and continue to try your best. But I think I learned the most from those difficult times. So I guess my advice would just be embrace that. It's going to be difficult, but you come out of it on the other side a better professional, a better student, and a better person. So
Wonderful advice. Thank you so much, Grace and Gray, for coming out today to tell us about your experiences. It's wonderful to see you contribute back and to share your knowledge with those that are also considering this this dual degree program. And I think you've both put your information there in case anyone wants to reach out directly, which is super generous of you. So thank you for that. And I guess we will maybe close our session now in recognition of everyone's valuable time. Thank you so much, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you. On the screen, you can see our emails. We've also posted the sessions. If you want to book a coffee chat to connect with our student ambassadors in the chat box. So feel free to stay connected, and hopefully we'll receive your applications for maybe next year or the year after. But thanks for both of the panelists and Vivian for attending our sessions today. And thanks for joining us, the audience. See you next time.